Now that we've scaled our floor plan, we're going to do a quick volume study before we actually draw the walls. And we're also going to figure out what type of roof we're going to want for our house. And the reason I'm doing this now is because it's important to kind of teach you a little bit about tags and about entity info so that you know how you can group things together and then add a tag to it and then turn it on and off. Prior to this, we were using SketchUp for Schools. Although it's the same type of thing, the way it's displayed in SketchUp Pro is slightly different. I just wanted to point out that I did make some changes to my floor plan because I realized originally I had a door right here from the second floor that was going to go out to a deck above the first floor. And I realized that I really did want this space to be open to the second floor, and these walls here are probably going to be half walls so that you can look down into the space from the second floor. So I had to make some design decisions there. Just for my own reference, I added the footage on each side of the floor plan just so I would know and have that for reference. I also resized the floor plan and I double checked it with my dimension tools and it is 26 feet. So that worked out pretty well. Even if it doesn't match perfectly, it's okay because when we create our volume study, which we'll be drawing our floor plan from, you will be using the pencil tool and actually typing in the dimensions. We're going to do that first. I can take the pencil tool and I can zoom in here kind of to where this wall would extend to. Remember that you want it to snap to the red or green axis. As I'm pulling it, I can type in or I can click to where I think it would end, and then I would type in 26 feet. It looks like that is pretty correct. Then I can come across here and type in 14 feet. I can come across the other side here. Remember, if you need to move something, to get the pan tool, you can click down on the mouse and hold the shift key, or you can even use the H key. Now this one I can use inferencing for because I can kind of mouse up to there and I should see sort of a dotted line. And I can also see down here in the lower right hand box that it says 26 feet. So, and then I know that when I draw up to there, it will connect it. You can see that maybe there's a little bit of windows showing and whatnot, but actually this is the correct size. This is the first floor. When I brought the floor plan in, it was its own group. I'd like to assign this to its own layer, and you'll see here is the actual floor plan. And I do want these to be separate because at some point I'm going to want to turn off this floor plan. I'm going to select the floor plan and I'm going to go up to Window and I'm going to select Entity Info Box, which is right here on the lower left, and I'm going to select the tags layer. In SketchUp Pro, the way you apply tags to an object is slightly different than how we did it in SketchUp for Schools. In the plus button here, just like in SketchUp for Schools, I'm going to click it and I'm going to call this floor plan. Planning ahead, I'm going to actually make another one for first floor. I'm going to call this volume study just so I know it's different than when I actually create the first floor plan. Because I have a second floor, I'm going to do the same thing for the second floor volume. You'll see that the floor plan is selected. So when I go to the entity info box, when I click on different things in SketchUp, you'll see that the entity info box is actually giving us information about what that object is. When you draw anything in SketchUp and you haven't applied it to a tag, it's always going to be in the untagged tag. What we want to do is we want to apply that object when we select it to a tag that we've created. So when I select it, it's going to highlight it. And you can see it actually has a name because when I imported it, it was a file. The name of the file shows up here. And now I'm going to select floor plan. When I do that, it will automatically put it on this tag and tag it with the floor plan. You can have multiple things on individual tags. When I turn this off, and I can turn it on. The advantage of tags is that you can turn on and off different parts of your model, and that may become important when you're working on it. Now I have this shape that I drew, and I'm going to triple click it, group this. And the reason I'm grouping it now is so that I don't forget, because as I draw things, remember that grouping makes it so that when you draw on top of something, it's not going to stick to it. And that's really important when you're working in SketchUp. I grouped it, and now I'm going to tag it and use first floor volume study. And you'll see here again, if I click the eyeball on and off, it will disappear. Right now, I'm just doing volume study. And I also know that my second floor is roughly the same with the exception of what this part is going to look like. There are a couple ways I could handle this, but I'm going to just keep it the same footprint because this floor is open to the first floor. That means that these outer walls will actually be at the same height, or they might be different. I haven't really determined that yet. Depends on what the roof looks like. They may be different, but for right now, I think it's going to all be the same height. So in that case, going to actually make a copy of this. To do that, I'm going to select it. I'm going to use the Move tool, hold the Option key down, and make a copy. Now they're both on the first floor volume study. So I need to take the one I just pulled and I need to apply that to the second floor volume study. And let's just figure out and see if that works. Yep, it works. All right, now I have these two and I can move them separately. So now for the volume study. Our parameters are that this house is sitting on a pad that is 1 foot thick. The foundation will always come up above grade, which means the ground level. If you have a sloping property, it might come up higher. It just depends on what your site is like. So for right now, we're just going to create this as a 1 foot high pad. To do that, obviously, I'm going to have to click on this. Because it's grouped, I have to do this in edit mode. So I'm going to double click and get into edit mode. I'm going to take my push-pull tool and I'm going to push that up 1 foot. Now we have to think about how high our walls are. In my case, my walls are 8 feet high. Some of you may have done 9, but I'm going to do 8. So I'm going to click again and I'm going to pull this up 8 feet. Right here, this is my first floor. I'm going to go into edit mode and I'm going to pull a little guideline here up 1 foot. I'm going to pull it up along the blue axis 1 foot, just so I remember where my pad is. If you have a second floor, there will also be a 1 foot space underneath, which will account for your floor joists. These are the joists that support the second floor. So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go into edit mode. Remember, if you see that you can't do anything, it's because you're not in edit mode. I'm going to pull this up 1 foot, then pull this up another 8 feet because that would be the full height. So now I've got these two pieces. I'm also going to go into edit mode here and give myself a 1 foot high notation for where that floor joist would be. I did it in edit mode so that this guideline would actually be stuck with this group. So now I'm just going to put them on top of each other. I'm going to select it. I'm going to use the Move tool. And remember that when you move the Move tool, you always want to go from a corner to a corner. It just makes things a whole lot easier. So here we have our pad. Then we have our first floor with an 8 foot ceiling. Then we have our floor joists, and we're allowing 1 foot for that. And then I have another 8 feet above that. Now you can see how large this actually is in relation to the person. Because we're going to be thinking about our roofs at the same time, I'm also going to mark where my walls will be in this volume study for the second floor. So I'm going to go into edit mode, double click that second floor volume. And I know from here to this is going to be a half wall. This is 14 feet. This is 14 feet. And then this side, because I'm accounting for this 3-foot stairwell, this will be 11 feet. So I'm just going to put a guideline in here to remind myself of that. Guidelines are very helpful. They don't affect geometry like a line tool would affect the geometry. Guidelines are used to kind of lay out what it is you want to do. Here, I'm going to put in 11 feet and click enter. And then I'm going to pull another guideline and I'm going to type in 14 feet. If I wanted to do a sloping roof here, I would know where my wall would need to be going down from, or if I wanted to pull this up a little bit higher and make a cross roof, I could do that too, or a gabled roof. So now I'm going to close that and I'll be able to come over here and I can turn off the second floor volume, and I can also turn off the first floor volume, and I could turn off the floor plan. Remember to save your work and remember where you are saving it to. And I'm going to save this on my desktop. This is really designed to give you a sense of how big this house is going to be in case you want to make any changes. Next, we're going to talk about doing roofs.